Today we have the two great commandments of Jesus. We have to love God with all of our being, all of our mind, our strength, our soul. We've got to put everything into it. And we're also told to love our neighbour as we love ourselves. And people often, I think, find it relatively easy to think about loving our neighbours. And loving God, I think, is a little bit harder. But there's another love that underpins these two loves, the love of God and the love of neighbour. And it's mentioned there just briefly in the gospel, that to love our neighbour, you also need to love yourself, which we often don't talk about. But to love God and even to love our neighbour, we also need to have a self-love. And we're told to actually love our neighbour as we love ourselves. So how do we love ourselves? Often we don't talk like this. It sort of feels, it's a bit prideful to think, oh, I love me. I'm so good, look at me. But that's not quite what I think love of self is meant to be. Love of self should bring about, yes, a dignity, a respect for ourselves. We should want to be able to achieve, to do the best we can with what we're given. That's a love for self. A love for self should also include some humility. We shouldn't be going around and saying, hey everyone. No, that's not love of self. It makes a fool of yourself. But to be able to love others in the way we love ourselves, we should bring some of those qualities we have for self to others. Unfortunately, in our world today, I think there's a lot of people who struggle with the love of God. But I think there is also a lot of people, and if we're all honest to ourselves, I think we probably know people, or we might have been in this situation ourselves, where there are a lot of people, unfortunately, who don't love themselves. They don't see goodness in themselves. They sort of are ashamed of themselves. And that sometimes can bottle over to the way we treat others as well. There is goodness, there's greatness in every single person. And this is good for our reconciliation candidates because God doesn't create rubbish. Each person's not a piece of rubbish to be thrown away with. God creates each person in dignity, in greatness. And each of us are great. And we should love and recognise the greatness in each of us. It's not prideful. We don't want to be going around parading it so everyone knows. But we should be thankful, yes, we've got gifts. We've got qualities that are great. And we love those. We should be delighting in what we have and who we are, which is a beautiful thing. And then what we see in ourselves, we should then be able to see in others and say, oh, that person over there, they've got a pretty good hairstyle too. There's a few of them who've got a hairstyle like me around the church. They're not bad. I recognise them. There's one over there, there's one up the back as well, yeah. I can recognise something in myself and then recognise it in others and say, oh yeah, that's not bad. And that's part of what loving others, this commandment says, Jesus says, love your neighbour as you love yourself. So you need to love yourselves first to be able to then love your neighbour. When I was in high school and even when I was at uni, but much before I started to study to become a priest, I was a normal person. I still think I'm a normal person, but I think some people would think otherwise. But I try to be normal. But when I was a teenager and a young adult, before I started studying to be a priest, I had a few different relationships. I had a few girlfriends over the years. And I remember as a teenager, as a young adult, that I would put everything into the relationship. I would try to plan outings and dates and activities that would really have a good experience for the girls, the different people I was going out with over the years. And that same intensity that we have sometimes in relationships, and the young kids here I'm sure haven't quite got this sense yet, but the adults all know what I'm talking about. That same intensity that we have as a young teenager or a young adult in a relationship, we should have with God as well. That we put everything into it. That we make it our priority to love God. We use our intelligence, we use our strength, we use our mind, we use our soul, we use our heart. We put it all into that relationship with God. In the same way that we do in other relationships that should happen within a marriage relationship, a husband and wife, and the way that parents should love their kids. we should put that into our relationship with God as well. And God wants us to do that. So 2 great commandments: love God with everything that we have, all of our strength, all of our heart, our knowledge, our intellect, our souls, and love our neighbours as we love ourselves. So today, 3 things I want you to do. Commit to recognising something good in yourself today. Think about it during the Mass. What's something good that you are grateful for in yourself? That you can say, yeah, I love that quality in myself. And then think, how can I find that in somebody else? And all of us can do this, from the very young to the very old, everyone in between. Find a quality in yourself and then see if you can find it in someone else. While I was talking, I noticed a few people have the same hairstyle as me. It's a good hairstyle, if you have to have it. We can do that for ourselves. Recognise something in yourself, recognise that same goodness that you see in yourself and someone else, and then put everything you've got into having that relationship with Jesus Christ as well.